During the years 1942 and 1943, the Rzew region west of Moscow became the stage for one of the bloodiest campaigns of the Second World War. Known among Soviet soldiers as the Rzew meat grinder, this series of offensives represented one of the Red Army's costliest attempts to expel the German forces of Army Group Center, which maintained a strategic salient about 200 kilometers from the Soviet capital. Despite its scale and intensity, the campaign remained shrouded in silence for decades, both in the West and within the Soviet Union itself. The Irov salient was formed after the failure of the German offensive against Moscow at the end of 1941. In early 1942, the Soviets launched counterattacks that pushed the German troops back, but failed to dislodge the enemy from the Rev-Vyazma region. Initially commanded by Georgy Zhukov and later by Ivan Konev, the Stavka, the Soviet High Command, launched a series of operations aimed at eliminating this threat. Among them, Operation Mars in November 1942 and the subsequent offensives in 1943 stand out. The Red Army employed large formations such as the 3rd, 31st, 39th, and 41st Armies. In addition to units of the 5th Guard Tank Army, the German 9th Army, under the command of General Walter Model, defended the region with strong defensive preparation, using minefields, anti-tank ditches, camouflaged bunkers, and barbed wire networks. The region's topography and severe climate hindered Soviet advances. Dense forests, swamps, and fortified villages forced the troops to fight under extremely adverse conditions. Winter froze the soil, while spring turned the terrain into mud, making the movement of armor and artillery impractical. The offensives, therefore, resulted in minimal progress with high human costs. The battles repeated themselves over months with little territorial gain. Even with numerical superiority and massive artillery support, the Soviets suffered from coordination failures, underestimated German defenses, and faced effective counterattacks. The advance through each German position required immense sacrifices. The trenches were often covered with bodies, and the supply lines could not keep up with the pace of the fighting. It is estimated that more than 1 million Soviet soldiers were killed, wounded, or went missing during the fighting in Rzew. German losses were significant, though smaller, and included tens of thousands of dead and wounded. The campaign became known among Soviet veterans as one of the most brutal of the entire war, marked by continuous attrition and contested strategic decisions. In March 1943, after assessing the high cost and the threat of new encirclements, the German High Command decided to abandon the salient as part of Operation Buffalo. The withdrawal was carefully executed, with the destruction of installations and fortifications to hinder Soviet occupation. When Soviet troops occupied the area, they found ruins and devastated fields without any major decisive victory having been achieved. The Rzew campaign did not result in immediate strategic gains for the Soviet Union, but it imposed serious losses on the enemy and served as a continuous barrier to German ambitions in the center of the Eastern Front. Even so, the absence of clear victories caused the episode to be little mentioned in official Soviet historiography for decades. Only after the dissolution of the USSR, with access to military archives and the testimony of veterans, did the full dimension of the Rzew battle begin to be recognized. Today, it is considered one of the most intense and destructive campaigns of the Second World War, a symbol of resistance and the high human cost faced on the Eastern Front.